Hi everyone. So as you can see, we are back, and today we are talking on the cause and effects of tax non-compliance, still currently for today under the tax under the blue view. And as you can see, we're on the SARS website, and the person that we are going to do a bit of a case study on is Mr. Lucky Montana. So we're starting off with what SARS has said in response to what he said, and we'll end off with just responding to his actual clip. So this is dated the 11th of October 2025. It's not too long ago. So I'm just going to scroll through it and read over it. This is almost like SARS's rebuttal. And even the video that we'll watch, we found it on IOL. We will not go through the entire video. You can pursue it yourself. We will link this article as well as that video to this video episode as well. He initiated a public attack on SARS in recent days. I think this is the video I'm referring to, the IOL one. And other news outlets did have articles, or do have articles, where basically he's claiming that SARS is abusing its powers, and there is maladministration by SARS, and it's a politically motivated witch hunt, and fourthly, SARS fraudulently doctored a fake court judgment to justify a hefty tax bill. It's important actually to know how SARS works so that you don't make such public remarks. And I think further down here it says the moment you go after SARS publicly, they have every right to also respond publicly, even with your own tax affairs, as much as it should be personal information. It's treated as such usually, but you go after SARS publicly, SARS will respond publicly. So according to IOL, Mr. Montana laid charges against SARS representatives for fraud. I'm not laughing, right? And on the 8th of October, SARS responded in a general press statement rejecting the claims as false. They have an annexure. I don't think we'll get to that. SARS proceeded to issue a formal notice to Mr. Montana, or the formal issue was in terms of Section 67 of the Tax Administration Act. And according to that same section, SARS is empowered to publicly disclose, this is what I was referring to, or is empowered to publicly disclose taxpayer information where it is necessary to counteract false statements that may undermine the integrity and public confidence in the tax system. The notice afforded Mr. Montana the opportunity to retract his statements and false allegations within 24 hours, of which he failed to do so. And to that extent, SARS will set out a salient factual sequence of events that we'll quickly go through now. The first three claims to say SARS was abusing its power, was involved in maladministration and a politically motivated witch hunt, and he had the opportunity to provide substance to his claims but did not, and the judgment in the case speaks for itself. So, factual sequence of events: he failed to submit his income tax return. So we've been referring to that as declaring. You must declare how much you're making to SARS. So this is in his individual capacity. In 2017, 18, and 19, therefore, SARS initiated an audit to the A word, right, of his assessment from 2009 to 2019, right? He only failed to submit in 2017, 18, and 19 years of assessment, yet SARS was willing, or they actually went as far back as 2009. And I don't think there's a law against that. So we also touched on that previously, that SARS can go back and say, oh, well, you didn't do this then, and you didn't do it here again, and therefore you owe me this much, right? And then Mr. Montana was formally notified of this on the 5th of November 2020. In the ordinary course and by operation of law, as with any other taxpayer under audit, Mr. Montana was requested to provide information for audit by no later than the 4th of December. He then requested an extension to submit that said documentation by the 1st of February 2021. He then failed to deliver the requested documentation, which is a contravention of the law. Then on the 2nd of Feb, the following day, SARS issued a final demand to Mr. Montana to submit the requested relevant material and information. And again, he failed to comply, right? This is 2021. The audit concluded with an issue of a letter of findings to Mr. Montana on 7th of July 2021. He was then informed that SARS intended to raise additional income tax assessment to the value of approximately 15.5 million in respect of his 2009 to 2019 years of assessments, capital only. How it usually works is that you would raise a tax return and you say, okay, I owe nothing, or I owe 5 Rand or 100 Rand, and then SARS goes into your return and assesses whether what you've submitted is correct or not. So here, SARS is raising an assessment to say you didn't declare anything, but I'm telling you that this is how much you owe for the years 2009 to 2019, 15.5. So we spoke about tax evasion versus tax avoidance, or we rather just mentioned that tax avoidance is allowed, but tax evasion is illegal. So here, SARS found that Mr. Montana had unlawfully evaded his tax liability by under-declaring taxable income he received from various sources over relevant periods of audit. I think this is the blind spot that we kind of covered, right? This is a contravention in law. Again, as in the ordinary course for any taxpayer in such a position, Mr. Montana was offered 21 business days to respond to the audit findings. So here, SARS is just keeps on reiterating that they did not treat him any different to anyone else that they would be auditing. SARS is saying there are no respect of persons. On 11 August 2021, Mr. Montana requested and was granted an extension until the 16th of August 2021 to respond to these findings that were shared in July, on the 7th of July. Yes, letter of findings. Okay, and then on the 16th, he responded to a limited extent only, failing to deal with the bulk and essence of the audit findings. Instead of using the opportunity, Mr. Montana elected to attack SARS by making unsubstantiated and unfounded allegations against SARS, accusing it of vindicative action and conducting a witch hunt. SARS denied the allegations and proceeded to finalize the assessment, or advised that it would proceed to finalize the assessment with due consideration of his submissions that he made, which were limited. This is where I'm saying you should have your house in order, right? You should have documentation of all your expenses, especially because that is your best chance to actually reduce how much you would owe SARS. If you have your house in order, SARS won't give you issues, but seemingly here he just kept on failing to comply and to submit, given the multiple opportunities that he had, and with the amount of money that he seems to have been making, because he also was the CEO of Prasa. So this is not your everyday Joe who goes to work 9 to 5 and earns a basic salary. This is a person who owns a lot. Who earns a lot. And why he didn't have an accountant or a tax practitioner that advised him, I don't know. But hence I'm saying, if you fail to do the right thing, to have your house in order when you're earning 100 rand, when you're then earning 100,000 rand, you won't do the right thing then either. Rather learn to do it when you're still earning 100 rand. That's the blue nugget that we want to reiterate here. Then Mr. Montana was informed in absolute detail what the basis of the assessments were. He claims, you'll hear later, that SARS was not able to provide him with any proof of why he owes what he owes, or why he owes what they say he owes. So SARS is basically defending itself to say, we gave you the information that you wanted. Mr. Montana was at the stage assessed for tax of approximately 28 million. Imagine, from 15.5 million to 28 million, comprising of capital and penalties. Okay, so that explains the difference. So that's about an additional 13 million in respect of the same period, 2009 to 2019, years of assessment for under-declared income. It's not that he didn't declare anything at all. He under-declared what he got. So you have that side hustle, rather declare it, right? And especially for majority of people, at the inception of your side hustle, that odd sale that you make here and there is not going to push you over the threshold, especially if your hustle is the only thing that you're earning. Granted, yes, if you have a salary, it probably will push you over the threshold, but you would rather have that scenario, right, than to under-declare and then be audited for a decade of how long you've been under-declaring. And now suddenly the additional 100 rand that you've been making from your side hustle, or let's say that additional 1,000 rand that you've been making from your side hustle every now and again, suddenly comes back to haunt you at that amount times 10, excluding interest, potentially. And then he was advised that if he felt aggrieved by or disagreed with the assessments, he could formally object to the additional assessments by no later than 26 May 2022. SARS does have official channels for challenging them. So he was given the opportunity and was even told to follow that path. There's even a tax ombudsman, right? There's many paths. But here he had enough money and he had already gone via the legal route, right? And they went to the courts. But even before you get to the courts, you can go via the channels, the official channels that SARS provides. Those can be explored at a later stage on this platform. If that's something you're interested in, let me know. He requested and was granted an extension to lodge his objection by no later than 31 May, that same month of that same year. I think that's something that's not highlighted often enough, that SARS can show a lot of grace, especially when you're showing intention to comply. They are not impossible. So you don't necessarily want to get on their bad side. So SARS is guided by legislation, right? You have to know your business. I don't know if he hired lawyers, maybe he did, but you need to come correct against SARS. You need to have reference to case law. You have to have supporting documentation, right? It's not that it's hard to dispute SARS, but they know the law already. So the burden rests with you. If you're objecting something, you need to know what it is you're objecting and why, and be able to back it up. Otherwise, they'll just be like, this is not substantiated. It's unfounded. What is it founded on? It has to be founded on legislation. At this point, Mr. Montana appointed new auditors or tax representatives. So he just asked for opportunities to present information. And he never once disputed how much was owed. So he didn't have a team that actually counted the value, right? That went in and said, okay, what I declared was either correct, or this is how much actually I should have declared, and this is actually how much I owe you versus what you say I owe you. So SARS took that as, I suppose it's not contested, so final demand, this is how much is due and payable to SARS, and he did not pay that. And SARS proceeded with the recovery steps detailed later here in this article. So 11 days later, SARS provided copies of Mr. Montana's bank statements to his team as requested by them. Shame, this new team. What happened to his old team? On the 20th of September of that same year, Mr. Montana submitted a further letter to SARS to elaborate on his objection to the audit raised in his letter dated 31 May 2022. So he's just adding an annexure, seemingly, to his objection to the audit. But anyone is audited, even if you're not suspected to do anything wrong. Then on the 23rd of January 2023, SARS responded to Mr. Montana and informed him that no further opportunities to file a late objection would be granted. Mr. Montana has still, as at date hereof, which is October 2025, not filed a valid objection. In terms of Section 100 of the Tax Administration Act, the additional assessments have therefore become final and are no longer open to dispute. Mr. Montana's contention that he only recently became aware of the full extent of his tax liability is therefore false and dishonest. Debt collection process followed is outlined here under. I think I saw an article to say that he was going to be sequestrated. Recently, on the 8th of August 2025, Mr. Montana submitted a compromise offer to SARS, offering the sum of approximately 5.4 million to satisfy the total tax debt outstanding, which currently stands at 55 million. Yeah, so they're just saying he shouldn't have attacked us in public, while at the same time seeking a compromise of a tax debt that he accepts that he owes. What a long statement. What a long statement. So we'll just watch a portion of his initial claims against SARS in the form of a video.
I'm here to lay a case of fraud and criminality against the Commissioner of the South African Revenue Services, Mr. Edward Kieswetter, as well as some of the officials in the South African Revenue Services. Many of you are aware that for the past 5 years, I've been having an ongoing battle with the South African Revenue Services regarding my tax affairs. And I've been in and out of court dealing with this particular matter. And to my shock, I found that I've been made to believe that a court had ruled on the 11th of August 2022 that I'm owing SARS an amount of just over 44 million. And I think over the years it has moved from 44 million to become 55 million rands, which means they've applied interest and the 220% penalties on that amount. But to my shock, I just learned recently, when I was going for a rescission application, that in fact the court judgment doesn't exist. That there was never a judge that said and made the decision that I owe SARS that amount of money. This is abuse of power by the South African Revenue Services. It's basically they deciding that I'm owing them an amount, and when I rejected that amount, they didn't even bother to go to court. They just issued a statement. But in the process of trying to catch me, they committed the biggest fraud of all times. We have a situation where when we requested documents, the court order, the actual judgment, we can't even put our hands on those. And when we look at the documents they've given to us, there are different case numbers on this particular issue.
So, sorry to speak over him, but I don't know if I'm not understanding him, but SARS is the one that went to court and said this guy owes us this much, and he should have responded to that based on what we just read. And seemingly he wanted a judge or expected a judge to be the one that declared that he owes 44 million rand. I don't know if he understands how SARS actually works, but I think having read the very detailed statement that SARS put out, it goes to show that maybe he's just maybe misguided and doesn't actually fully understand what he's being accused of, maybe, I don't know, and hence is not responding appropriately to the accusations. Not accusations, but whatever SARS is requiring of him. I think that's as much of the clip that I wanted to show, and yeah, I think let me know what you think. And I think also as a way to end this segment of cause and effect, I think I want to take this also into the red view, because he also was a CEO of PRASA. I think between, was it 2010? When was he CEO of PRASA? I'll tell you now. He was the CEO of PRASA, being the Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa, from 2010 to 2015. And then he was also Member of Parliament or Member of the National Assembly of South Africa from 2024 to 2025. So this then I think sets the tone for a red perspective or a red view episode, where we then pick up from here and then say, you know what, how do I feel as a law-abiding citizen? Is he a law-abiding citizen, right? Because we want to balance the perspective and the different views. You can't claim that there is injustice that is taking place against you, and you, on the other hand, you are also part of the injustice. I'm not saying he was, I'm just saying it would be interesting to actually look into what took place at PRASA under his leadership, and also any other stories as him being a member of parliament, because that also motivates people to not want to pay tax, right? So we want to have a look at that. But for now, let's call that an episode, or maybe it will be two. This has been a long video, and the aim is to have short form content. So the aim here is to keep it brief, but please do share your comments on what you think about the story, what you've learned from the story, and what you might want us to share under the red view, or if you have any questions under the blue view. But yeah, any questions, not limited to this, but any questions that you might have, please share them. And under the red view, potentially share what you might want us to look into or discuss, or if you have any ideas on what you want to explore under this cause and effect analysis. God bless and take care.